Welcome back to channel. Today, we drift into the fascinating world of Victorian England and imagine, what if you woke up as a woman in 1860? From the challenges of daily life to the subtle power they wielded, we'll explore the struggles, resilience, and influence of women in this era. If you enjoy diving deep into history and uncovering the untold stories of the past, make sure to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more amazing historical journeys. Now, let's step back in time and experience life as a Victorian woman. Imagine waking up one morning, not in your familiar room with its soft modern comforts, but in a world that feels entirely foreign, as if you've stepped through a door into a painting of another century. The sunlight filters through heavy, curtained windows, casting long shadows across a room that is meticulously decorated with lace, polished wood, and porcelain trinkets. The air carries a mix of scents: the faint smoke of a distant coal fire, the lingering aroma of polished furniture, perhaps the subtle perfume of flowers arranged on a table, chosen not merely for beauty, but to signal refinement and taste. You rise from a bed that is grander and heavier than anything you are used to, draped in layers of linens and blankets, but beneath all the comfort lies a certain rigidity, a sense that your movements, even here in your own space, are observed and measured. As your eyes adjust, you notice your clothing, and it is unlike anything in your modern wardrobe. Layers upon layers of fabric, corsets, petticoats, and stiff collars, each piece meticulously arranged not just for warmth or comfort, but to conform to the expectations of society. The very act of dressing is an exercise in precision and patience. Every layer must sit correctly. Every fold, seam, and bow must be perfectly aligned. The corset, in particular, is unforgiving, compressing your body into a shape deemed socially desirable, a shape that signals propriety, discipline, and status. The constraints are both physical and symbolic. They remind you that your role in this society is defined by external expectations, that beauty, obedience, and decorum are valued above freedom and ease. Stepping into the hallway, you hear the distant sounds of a bustling household. Servants move quietly but efficiently, their steps practiced and deliberate. The clatter of pots, the rustle of skirts, the soft footfalls on wooden floors, all create a symphony of domestic labor that sustains the life of the house. Each sound is a reminder that the world beyond your room operates according to a strict hierarchy, one in which your comfort and leisure are privileges provided by the work of others, often invisible to those who enjoy them. In Victorian England, the household is a microcosm of society itself, structured, stratified, and governed by unspoken rules that dictate behavior, interaction, and movement. Stepping outside, the streets are alive, but not with the familiar hum of engines or electronic signals of modern life. Instead, horse-drawn carriages clatter over cobblestones, vendors call out their wares in a mix of enthusiasm and urgency, and pedestrians, men in top hats, women in crinolines, children weaving through crowds, move with purpose through the narrow thoroughfares. Smoke from coal fires hangs in the air, adding a gray haze that softens the edges of buildings but also infiltrates your senses, clinging to skin and hair. The streets themselves are uneven and treacherous, a mix of mud, cobblestones, and refuse that would feel jarring to someone accustomed to asphalt and sidewalks. Sanitation is primitive, puddles might hide waste, and the threat of disease is ever present. The city is alive, vibrant, and dangerous all at once, a place where the energy of industrial progress collides with the stark realities of survival. As you navigate this world, you quickly become aware of the expectations placed upon you as a woman. Every glance, gesture, and word is scrutinized, The Victorian era is a time of strict social codes, particularly for women. You are expected to be gentle, polite, and deferential, to speak softly yet eloquently, to express opinions cautiously, and to demonstrate virtue through modesty and obedience. These are not merely suggestions, they are rules embedded into the fabric of daily life, enforced both socially and legally. A misstep could have consequences: loss of reputation, social ostracism, or limited opportunities for marriage and social advancement. In this world, appearances are paramount, and maintaining them is a constant, exhausting endeavor. Your education, if you are lucky to have received one, has been carefully curated to prepare you for the roles society deems appropriate. You may know how to read and write, perhaps even how to play the piano or paint delicate landscapes, but your studies are intended less for personal enrichment or intellectual freedom, and more as tools to make you a desirable companion, a suitable wife, or a refined hostess. Knowledge beyond these areas is often discouraged, even frowned upon for women. Ambition, curiosity, or assertiveness can be seen as threatening or inappropriate. Your world is one in which personal potential is measured not by talent or intellect, but by conformity and grace. Even simple pleasures are constrained by these expectations. Walking through the streets, you are aware of the way your skirts swish and sway, the way your posture is perceived, and the way your voice carries. Interaction with men is carefully moderated, a delicate dance of propriety. Social gatherings are structured performances, where laughter, conversation, and gestures are rehearsed to adhere to the standards of decorum. Free expression is rare, and spontaneity is a luxury that could compromise your standing. Every smile, every tilt of the head, every gesture carries weight. Every misjudgment could ripple through your life in ways both subtle and profound. Yet within these boundaries, there is also a world of intricate nuance and subtle power. The Victorian woman may appear constrained, but she also operates within a society that values her influence in the home and in social networks. Decisions about household management, charitable endeavors, and child rearing place significant responsibilities on her shoulders. Her ability to navigate these spheres with intelligence, tact, and charm can shape outcomes in ways that are both meaningful and lasting. Influence in this era is rarely overt. It is subtle, woven into the patterns of social interaction, domestic control, and moral guidance. The constraints themselves create opportunities for cleverness, resourcefulness, and quiet strength. Outside the domestic sphere, the broader society is undergoing dramatic transformation. The year 1860 sits on the cusp of industrial revolution, political change, and expanding colonial influence. Steam engines, factories, and railroads are transforming cities, economies, and the rhythms of daily life. Scientific discoveries, new technologies, and shifts in social thought challenge traditional norms, yet women often remain excluded from the full benefits of these changes. You witness progress in industry and technology, but your role in shaping or participating in it is limited. The contrast between potential and restriction is palpable, and it underscores the delicate balance that Victorian women must maintain between ambition and obedience. Health and hygiene, too, are areas of profound difference. Medical knowledge is rudimentary compared to modern standards, and diseases that are easily preventable or treatable today are common and dangerous. The mere act of walking through crowded streets carries risks of infection or injury. Diets are limited by class and geography, and malnutrition or deficiency is common even among the ostensibly privileged. Life expectancy is shorter, and childhood mortality rates are high. The fragility of life is a constant undercurrent in every decision, from clothing choices to social interactions. influencing behavior in ways that modern comforts have largely removed from daily consciousness. The domestic staff that supports your life provides both a buffer and a lens into the realities of labor in Victorian England. Servants are highly trained, efficient, and often disciplined through strict hierarchies and expectations. Their lives are a mirror of your own constraints, though different in nature. They endure long hours, limited autonomy, and societal disregard, yet their skill and loyalty are essential to the smooth functioning of your household. Observing them, you gain insight into the complexities of a world where power, class, and gender intertwine to shape every experience. Every meal prepared, every room cleaned, every article of clothing mended is a testament to labor that is often invisible but absolutely indispensable. As the day unfolds, you begin to internalize the rhythms and rituals of Victorian life. Breakfast is a formal affair, perhaps consisting of porridge, bread, tea, and modest fare, eaten in a room designed for presentation as much as nourishment. Each meal is an opportunity to demonstrate etiquette and refinement. Your interactions with family, servants, and guests are guided by unspoken rules that dictate tone, posture, and attention. Conversation is measured, laughter is delicate, criticism is veiled in politeness. Every act, no matter how mundane, is an exercise in discipline, self-control, and performance. Religious and moral expectations also permeate your consciousness. The Victorian era prizes piety, modesty, and adherence to moral codes. Church attendance, charitable work, and public behavior are markers of virtue, and deviation invites suspicion and censure. Morality is both personal and public, and maintaining a reputation for virtue is central to a woman's security and opportunities. The weight of social judgment is ever present, influencing decisions ranging from dress to conversation, from friendships to romantic attachments. Every choice becomes a reflection not just of personal preference, but of social propriety, familial honor, and moral standing. By mid-morning, the layers of social expectation, domestic responsibility, and personal restraint may begin to feel overwhelming, yet they are inextricable from the fabric of life in 1860. To live as a Victorian woman is to navigate a world that is simultaneously elegant, dangerous, constraining, and filled with subtle opportunities for influence. It is a life of careful observation, deliberate action, and constant negotiation between desire and duty. Every gesture, every word, every decision is imbued with significance, shaping both immediate experiences and long-term consequences. Stepping fully into this world, you begin to recognize the complexity of being a woman in 1860. Beauty, grace, and etiquette are not mere luxuries. They are survival tools, markers of social worth, and instruments of influence. Conformity is demanded, yet within the strictures, ingenuity and resilience flourish. The very limitations imposed upon you become a stage upon which strategy, intelligence, and quiet rebellion can be enacted. To inhabit this life is to understand a society that balances appearance with action, virtue with constraint, and power with invisibility. In this moment of immersion, you realize that life as a Victorian woman is not simple or static. It is a world of contrasts, comfort and confinement, privilege and limitation, visibility and invisibility. It is a society that prizes outward elegance while often overlooking inner strength. It is a life of subtle battles, unseen victories, and quiet endurance. And as you take your first steps into this morning, into this world, you understand that every day will require mindfulness, courage, and adaptability. To wake up as a Victorian woman in 1860 is to step into a life where every action, every word, and every breath is a negotiation with history, culture, and expectation. If you find yourself born into the middle or upper classes of Victorian England, your life would be markedly different from that of a working class woman, yet it would be filled with its own strictures, challenges, and expectations. The world you awaken to is elegant, structured, and deliberate, where every detail of your existence is orchestrated according to social norms, family obligations, and the unspoken rules of propriety that govern the upper echelons of society. Your home, a stately townhouse or a country estate, reflects wealth and taste, filled with polished wood furniture, velvet draperies, and intricate porcelains. Every room serves a purpose, not just for comfort, but as a display of refinement and status, a testament to your family's prominence and their ability to navigate the social world with elegance. From the moment you rise in the morning, your existence is framed by expectations that are as precise as they are relentless, and as invisible as the air you breathe. The day begins early, often before the sun fully rises, as household routines demand careful attention. Your first act is typically to dress, and the process is elaborate. Layers of petticoats, corsets, chemises, stockings, and gowns are arranged with meticulous care. Each garment is chosen not just for appearance, but to convey virtue, social standing, and propriety. The corset shapes your body into the idealized feminine form of the era, a symbol of beauty, control, and decorum, constraining movement even as it enhances posture and poise. Hair is arranged with care, adorned with ribbons, pins, or hats appropriate for the time of day and occasion, while jewelry signals wealth and refinement. Every detail is part of a language of status. A poorly tied ribbon or a misaligned collar could invite subtle censure from peers or family alike. Breakfast, if taken at home, is a formal affair. Meals are not merely about sustenance, but serve as a stage for refinement, conversation, and observation. You might partake of tea, bread, porridge, or eggs, served in fine china by the household staff. The servants themselves are essential participants in this structured life, moving with quiet efficiency to anticipate every need, yet remaining almost invisible, as their proper behavior is part of the household's presentation of order. Even these early moments of the day are shaped by etiquette. How you sit, how you pour tea, how you respond to conversation, all are lessons in decorum and self-discipline, lessons drilled into you from childhood to ensure that every gesture aligns with societal expectations. Education, though limited compared to the opportunities available to men, is a central aspect of your upbringing. If you belong to the upper classes, you may have been taught to read, write, and perform arithmetic, but the curriculum is designed to enhance your suitability as a cultured, accomplished woman. Music, painting, embroidery, and French or Italian language lessons may fill your hours, alongside lessons in literature and poetry that teach grace and refinement rather than critical or scientific thought. This education is a paradox. It empowers you with skills and knowledge that elevate your social position, yet it deliberately confines your intellectual horizons, preparing you to be admired and appreciated rather than to lead, debate, or innovate in public life. Ambition, curiosity, and independence are subtly discouraged. The highest praise you can receive is the approval of family and peers for your adherence to societal norms. Marriage is a defining goal for women of your class, and much of your education, appearance, and conduct are shaped to prepare you for this future. Romantic love, while idealized in literature, is often secondary to strategic considerations. Family alliances, economic security, and social positioning frequently guide marital arrangements. Your parents or guardians may have carefully monitored your interactions, guiding your friendships, introducing you to suitable suitors, and orchestrating social gatherings that serve as both entertainment and subtle matchmaking arenas. Every conversation, every smile, every gesture toward potential partners is imbued with significance, reflecting not just your desires but your family's ambitions and social strategy. Even as you navigate the nuances of potential marriage, your autonomy is limited by legal and societal constraints. Upon marriage, your property and wealth often transfer to your husband. Divorce is legally challenging and socially stigmatized, leaving many women bound in unions regardless of personal satisfaction or safety. Your legal identity is subsumed within that of your husband, creating a dependency that affects almost every aspect of life, from financial control to personal freedom. Yet, within these limits, influence is wielded subtly through the management of household affairs, the upbringing of children, and the careful cultivation of social networks. Power, in this context, is indirect but potent. The ability to guide, persuade, and maintain appearances becomes a form of authority in a world that denies overt control. The household itself is a complex ecosystem, with the management of servants, resources, and social obligations demanding skill, attention, and foresight. You oversee budgets, menus, cleaning schedules, and the preparation for visitors and events, all while ensuring that the home remains a sanctuary of refinement and order. The domestic sphere is not merely functional but symbolic, reflecting the family's status and the woman's competence, taste, and moral guidance. Success in these duties requires intelligence, organization, and emotional acuity, as small mistakes, a poorly hosted dinner, a forgotten invitation, a visible display of disorder, can damage reputation and invite criticism. Within the home, therefore, your influence is significant, shaping experiences, relationships, and perceptions, even as it is often invisible to those outside the household walls. Social obligations extend beyond the home. Visits to neighbors, attendance at parties, church services, and charitable activities form a calendar of engagements that demand careful preparation and execution. Each event is an opportunity to display etiquette, grace, and social acumen. Conversation is an art, balancing charm, wit, and discretion, while avoiding topics deemed inappropriate or contentious. Your ability to navigate these interactions shapes both personal and family reputation, and missteps can have lasting social consequences. The social world is a carefully maintained performance, one in which perception often outweighs reality, and the power of a woman lies in her ability to move gracefully within these invisible boundaries. Charitable work and social reform offer another avenue for influence. Women of your class may engage in philanthropy, establishing schools, hospitals, or charitable societies. These activities provide a socially acceptable outlet for ambition and creativity, while also reinforcing moral and religious values. Philanthropy becomes both a demonstration of virtue and a means to exert influence, allowing women to shape the lives of the less fortunate and to extend the family's social and moral reach. Yet even these efforts are circumscribed. Women's voices are often mediated through male relatives, and leadership is constrained by expectations of propriety, humility, and dependence. The Victorian emphasis on appearance and decorum permeates every aspect of life. Clothing is not merely decorative, but communicates social status, moral character, and personal discipline. Jewelry, accessories, and hairstyles serve as indicators of taste, wealth, and propriety, while social rituals such as greeting, curtsying, and seating arrangements reinforce hierarchy and expectation. Every choice, from the cut of a dress to the timing of a visit, carries weight, and the ability to navigate these subtleties requires attentiveness, memory, and adaptability. In a society so attuned to appearances, mastery of these details is essential to personal and familial success. Leisure is similarly structured. Activities such as reading, music, drawing, and embroidery occupy much of your free time, providing both cultural refinement and moral instruction. Visits to theaters, concerts, or galleries are opportunities to participate in cultural life while reinforcing social networks and status. Travel, when possible, is undertaken with careful planning and propriety, balancing the pleasures of exploration with the expectations of etiquette. Even recreation is framed by rules of behavior, reflecting the pervasive influence of social norms on every aspect of daily life. Friendships and personal relationships are similarly nuanced. Women cultivate bonds that provide emotional support, advice, and companionship, yet these relationships are often constrained by expectations of propriety and discretion. Gossip, while common, carries social risks. Information must be shared carefully, and alliances must be managed thoughtfully. Within these networks, women exercise subtle influence, exchanging insights, resources, and opportunities, creating a web of relationships that extends power and knowledge beyond the individual household. Health and self-care are both practical and symbolic. Diet, exercise, hygiene, and medical attention are carefully managed within the household, reflecting both class privilege and societal expectations. Physical appearance, from posture to complexion, signals virtue and discipline, while illness or neglect can become a source of social embarrassment. Knowledge of remedies, medical practices, and household management is essential, both to maintain personal well-being and to fulfill the responsibilities of caregiving within the family and broader household. Religious and moral instruction is central to daily life. Church attendance, prayer, and moral reflection shape character, behavior, and social perception. Virtue is intertwined with social standing, and moral lapses carry consequences beyond personal conscience, affecting reputation, marriage prospects, and social relationships. Religion offers both guidance and a framework for understanding one's place in the world, providing both solace and structure within the constraints of Victorian life. Through all these routines and expectations, the life of a middle or upper-class Victorian woman is a delicate balance of constraint and influence. The freedom to act is limited, yet within those limits lies the capacity for intelligence, strategy, and subtle authority. Mastery of domestic management, social navigation, education, and moral conduct creates a sphere of power that, though indirect, is significant and enduring. Every choice, from dress to conversation to household decisions, carries weight, shaping not only immediate experiences but the broader legacy of family and society. In this world, beauty, grace, and etiquette are tools. Power is exercised indirectly, and influence is often invisible but profound. Daily life is regimented, structured, and deliberate, yet it offers opportunities for creativity, resilience, and strategy within the home and social sphere. To be a Victorian woman of the middle or upper class is to navigate a world of expectation and constraint while cultivating the subtle skills that create impact and authority. Every day is a negotiation between duty and desire, appearance and reality, limitation and potential. Within these boundaries, women shape not only their lives but the lives of those around them, leaving a mark that is quiet yet enduring, and profound in its subtlety. If you were born into the working class of Victorian England, life would present a reality vastly different from that of your middle or upper-class counterparts, yet it would be no less defined by social expectation, responsibility, and daily struggle. From the moment you awaken, your senses are confronted with a world of hard labor, cramped living spaces, and the constant pressure to survive and contribute. Your home is likely a modest, narrow dwelling, perhaps a small apartment or a row house in a bustling industrial city. The walls may be thin, the air often damp and cold, and the space shared with multiple family members or even lodgers. Privacy is limited, comfort is sparse, and every square foot must be maximized for daily tasks and basic necessities. The sights, sounds, and smells of this environment, cooking fires, unwashed laundry, coal smoke, and the chatter of neighbors form the backdrop of a life that is both communal and crowded, yet profoundly constrained. Morning begins early, often before sunrise, as your day's labor cannot be delayed. If you live in a city, the streets outside are alive with activity. Children scurry to school, if they are lucky enough to attend. Men march to factories, women carry water, wash clothes, or prepare food for their families. If you live in a rural area, the tasks may involve tending animals, gathering firewood, or assisting in agricultural work. Regardless of setting, the work is relentless and exhausting, leaving little time for leisure or personal reflection. Each day is structured by necessity, dictated not by clocks or schedules of convenience, but by survival, economic need, and the unyielding rhythm of industrial or domestic labor. For a working class woman, employment is often a matter of survival rather than choice. Factories dominate urban life, churning out textiles, clothing, machinery, or other goods demanded by the growing economy. Women are employed as weavers, spinners, seamstresses, or in the more grueling tasks of assembly lines and industrial machinery. The work is physically demanding, repetitive, and sometimes dangerous. Long hours, often 12 or more per day, are the norm, and wages are minimal. Child labor is common, meaning that even young daughters may join the workforce to supplement family income. Safety measures are limited or non-existent, leading to frequent accidents, injuries, and chronic health problems. The factory floor is a world of noise, dust, and strain, where endurance and resilience are essential for both survival and continued employment. Domestic service is another common avenue for working class women, particularly in urban households. As maids, cooks, nannies, or laundresses, you perform labor that is often invisible to the families you serve, yet essential to the smooth operation of their homes. Your day begins before the household awakens, and it ends long after the family has gone to bed. Tasks are physically taxing: scrubbing floors, polishing silver, washing clothing by hand, preparing meals, and caring for children. Authority within the household hierarchy is strict, and expectations are absolute. You may be subject to harsh discipline, criticism, or unreasonable demands, yet your position is precarious, dependent on the goodwill of employers and the scarcity of alternatives. Despite the invisibility of your labor, your work sustains the comforts and social image of the families you serve, a silent but vital contribution that remains largely unacknowledged. Health and hygiene are constant concerns. The living conditions for the working class are often overcrowded, poorly ventilated, and unsanitary. Diseases such as cholera, typhoid, tuberculosis, and influenza are common and deadly. Medical knowledge is limited, and access to care is scarce or prohibitively expensive. Simple remedies, herbal treatments, and home care are relied upon, but they are often inadequate against the illnesses that ravage communities. Life expectancy is lower than for wealthier classes, and mortality, particularly among children, is high. The fragility of life is ever present, shaping daily decisions and influencing behavior in ways that may seem alien to those accustomed to modern health and safety. Dietary limitations further underscore the difficulties of working class life. Meals are basic and repetitive, often consisting of bread, porridge, potatoes, and occasional vegetables or meat, if finances allow. Nutrition is constrained by cost and availability, leading to deficiencies and malnutrition that affect energy, growth, and long-term health. Cooking is labor-intensive, requiring wood or coal fires, careful rationing of ingredients, and continuous attention to prevent waste or spoilage. The act of preparing food becomes a daily negotiation between necessity, resourcefulness, and endurance, reflecting both the creativity and the constraint of life at the margins of society. Social interactions are shaped by community, necessity, and constraint. Working class neighborhoods are often densely populated, fostering close connections among families and neighbors. These relationships provide support, solidarity, and shared resources in a world where institutional assistance is minimal. Women play central roles in these networks, exchanging advice, helping with childcare, sharing food or clothing, and offering guidance in times of illness or hardship. The bonds formed within these communities are both practical and emotional, creating a social safety net that allows survival despite economic and structural pressures. Yet, these networks also operate under scrutiny, gossip, and social norms that regulate behavior, reputation, and morality. Marriage and family life carry both expectation and economic function. Many working class women marry young, and family labor is essential to survival. Husbands, children, and extended kin are part of a household economy where every member contributes to the collective welfare. Women bear the brunt of domestic management, childcare, and caregiving, in addition to any paid employment outside the home. Childbearing is frequent, risky, and physically demanding, with limited access to medical care or knowledge. Fertility, maternal health, and family survival are constants on the mind, shaping daily routines and long-term planning. The home is a center of labor, love, and negotiation, a microcosm of resilience within a society that offers little structural support. Education is limited for working-class women, particularly beyond basic literacy and numeracy. Opportunities for formal schooling are constrained by cost, accessibility, and the need for children to contribute to household income. Yet literacy and numeracy, where available, are prized tools, offering the possibility of improved employment, social mobility, or access to ideas beyond immediate experience. Informal education is common, learning from mothers, neighbors, or fellow workers, sharing skills, trades, and knowledge essential for survival. Cultural and intellectual pursuits are often aspirational, pursued within the confines of labor, domestic responsibility, and community support. The desire to learn and grow persists, but is continuously tempered by necessity. Public life presents both opportunity and danger. Streets, markets, and workplaces are sites of interaction, commerce, and negotiation, yet they are also environments of risk. Harassment, violence, exploitation, and exploitation by employers or strangers are constant concerns. Clothing, behavior, and reputation are critical for safety as well as social standing. Subtle rules govern interaction. The way one carries oneself, responds to attention, or navigates public spaces can affect both immediate security and long-term social perception. Working-class women develop keen awareness, resourcefulness, and resilience in negotiating these environments. cultivating skills of observation, adaptation, and subtle influence to protect themselves and their families. Work within factories or households fosters a culture of endurance, camaraderie, and collective negotiation. Women often work alongside peers who share knowledge of machines, tasks, and labor, saving techniques, exchanging advice on coping with fatigue, injury, and the pressures of demanding supervisors. Bonds formed in these environments provide emotional support and practical guidance, creating a network of solidarity that mitigates the harshness of daily life. Friendships, shared struggles, and mutual assistance are crucial, forming a parallel sphere of influence and agency in an otherwise constrained social landscape. Religion and moral expectation are pervasive influences. Attendance at church services, participation in religious rituals, and adherence to moral codes shape community behavior, personal decisions, and social perception. Religious instruction often frames the understanding of hardship, labor, and resilience, offering both solace and guidance. Morality is intertwined with reputation and opportunity. Women are judged not only on conduct within the household, but also on behavior in the wider community. Faith becomes both a source of comfort and a framework for understanding and navigating life's hardships. Despite the constraints, working-class women exhibit remarkable resilience, creativity, and agency. Daily life demands problem-solving, resourcefulness, and emotional fortitude. Managing scarce resources, protecting children, navigating labor expectations, and maintaining social networks all require intelligence and strategy. Influence is wielded subtly through negotiation within households, guidance of children, support of neighbors, and careful cultivation of reputation. Power may be limited in formal terms, but the capacity to affect family, community, and circumstance is substantial. Women carve out spaces of autonomy, using skill, tact, and ingenuity to survive, and at times, thrive in the face of adversity. Leisure, when available, is brief and purposeful. Simple pleasures such as singing, storytelling, crafts, or small communal gatherings provide emotional sustenance, a respite from labor, and a chance to reinforce social bonds. Cultural expression persists despite limitations, demonstrating human creativity, desire for connection, and the need for expression even under economic and social pressures. These moments, though fleeting, are vital, sustaining both spirit and community in a world dominated by labor and survival. Seasonal rhythms and industrial schedules further shape life. Work intensifies during harvests, factory production cycles, or commercial demands, leaving little room for deviation. Clothing, food, and shelter must be adapted to weather extremes, while illness, accidents, or economic shocks threaten stability. Every decision is weighted with consequences. Every action has the potential to affect survival, health, and future opportunity. The working-class woman must navigate these pressures constantly, balancing immediate needs with longer-term planning in an environment where failure carries profound consequences. Childhood for working-class girls is characterized by early responsibility. Many begin contributing to household labor or paid employment at a young age. Education may be secondary to necessity, and play is often limited to moments of communal joy or rare reprieve. The transition from girlhood to adulthood is accelerated by labor, social expectation, and family responsibility. Young women learn resilience, skill, and endurance early, shaping both character and survival strategy. The pressures of early adulthood cultivate maturity, pragmatism, and the ability to navigate a world of constraint with intelligence and adaptability. Economic instability is a constant companion. Wages are low, employment is precarious, and social safety nets are minimal. Families must navigate periods of unemployment, illness, or market fluctuation with ingenuity and careful planning. Women often act as financial managers, rationing resources, negotiating with suppliers, or engaging in small trades to supplement income. The household economy requires constant attention, creativity, and strategic decision making, making the working-class woman both a laborer and a manager within her constrained sphere. In every aspect of life, the working-class woman demonstrates resourcefulness, endurance, and subtle influence. The labor, both paid and domestic, dominates the day, but within it lies opportunity for skill, strategy, and agency. Social networks, moral guidance, communal support, and informal education expand her capacity to survive and support others. Daily routines are exhausting, but they are also arenas of competence, intelligence, and quiet achievement. Every action, from household management to labor negotiation, contributes to survival, stability, and, ultimately, the preservation of family and community. Through all hardships, working-class women create meaning, agency, and resilience. They navigate labor, health, family, and social expectation with skill, fortitude, and ingenuity. Despite systemic constraints, economic pressure, and social limitation, they exert influence, protect their families, and shape their communities. Life is demanding, relentless, and often perilous, but it is also rich with subtle forms of power, knowledge, and accomplishment. The daily endurance, skill, and intelligence of these women form a foundation upon which family, community, and society continue to function, revealing the profound impact of those who labor quietly yet effectively to sustain life under conditions of scarcity, risk, and constraint. Living in Victorian England, you quickly realize that every aspect of your existence as a woman is regulated not only by law, but by the intricate, unspoken codes of society. These rules govern your speech, your posture, your clothing, your gestures, and even your thoughts, shaping the very way you inhabit the world. From the moment you step outside the private walls of your home, you are acutely aware of the eyes of others upon you, not necessarily in a menacing way, but as silent arbiters of your behavior, evaluating whether you conform to the expected standards of femininity, propriety, and social worth. Each movement, each word, each glance carries significance, and even a subtle misstep may ripple outward, affecting your reputation, your opportunities, and your relationships. The pressure to conform is constant, invisible, yet pervasive, shaping your life in ways both profound and subtle. Clothing serves as the first and most visible marker of your adherence to social rules. Your dress, meticulously arranged, signals not only your class, but also your virtue and understanding of social etiquette. Corsets cinch your waist, shaping your body into the idealized silhouette of femininity, constraining your movements and reminding you that the display of beauty often comes at the cost of physical freedom. Petticoats and crinolines amplify your presence, making even the simple act of walking a demonstration of grace and control. Accessories, hats, gloves, and jewelry are chosen carefully, each piece communicating refinement, status, and decorum. Colors, fabrics, and patterns are laden with meaning, guiding observers in their judgment of your taste, morality, and social standing. A single misaligned bow or the wrong choice of fabric could betray ignorance or impropriety, exposing you to criticism or gossip that may spread far beyond your immediate circle. Posture and physical comportment are equally important. Standing, sitting, or walking incorrectly signals a lack of discipline, refinement, or moral character. Women are taught to move gracefully, to keep their hands and feet properly positioned, to tilt the head in socially approved ways, and to avoid gestures considered bold, rude, or unbecoming. Even facial expressions are regulated. Overt displays of emotion are discouraged in public, replaced by a controlled, composed demeanor that reflects self-discipline, dignity, and awareness of social expectations. You quickly learn to suppress sudden laughter, frustration, or anger, for any such expression can attract attention or judgment. Your body itself becomes a text to be read, interpreted, and evaluated by others, a constant reminder of the invisible chains that govern conduct. Speech, too, is closely monitored by societal norms. Women are expected to speak softly, politely, and with careful diction. Conversation should be engaging yet never confrontational, witty yet never provocative. Opinions must be expressed cautiously, particularly in the presence of men or in mixed company, where a misstatement could be seen as impertinence or a challenge to social order. Topics considered inappropriate, politics, finance, explicit critique of others, or unrestrained emotion, are generally off limits, creating a landscape in which verbal expression is constrained but also strategic. Women develop a keen awareness of how to phrase thoughts, using indirect language, suggestion, or implication to communicate ideas while avoiding social censure. Conversation becomes both an art and a tool, a way to navigate the treacherous terrain of social expectation without compromising personal safety or reputation. The public sphere presents additional layers of scrutiny. Streets, marketplaces, public transport, parks, and theaters are spaces where behavior is constantly observed, judged, and recorded in the collective consciousness of the community. Walking alone, engaging in casual conversation, or even gesturing to a passer-by carries significance, as social codes dictate which actions are acceptable, which are improper, and which might attract scandal. Women are advised to travel in groups or with family, to maintain composure in public spaces, and to avoid situations that might compromise their virtue or reputation. Safety, reputation, and propriety are intertwined, shaping every decision about movement, interaction, and visibility outside the home. Friendships and social alliances are similarly governed by expectation. Women cultivate relationships with care, balancing trust, loyalty, and social standing. Gossip, though often seen as trivial, carries real power in this society, capable of affecting marriage prospects, employment opportunities, and personal safety. Women must navigate these networks with intelligence, awareness, and subtlety, exchanging advice, offering support, and occasionally engaging in delicate diplomacy to maintain harmony. Social intelligence is critical, knowing when to speak, when to remain silent, and when to assert influence can mean the difference between acceptance and ostracism. Through these relationships, women wield indirect power, influencing opinions, outcomes, and community life, even as their agency in formal or public domains remains restricted. Romantic interactions are also tightly regulated. Courtship is a complex dance of appearances, gestures, and expectations. A glance, a smile, or a simple touch is loaded with meaning, conveying interest, intent, or social status. Social gatherings, dances, and public outings are carefully choreographed, providing opportunities to meet suitors while demonstrating virtue, refinement, and compliance with moral codes. Missteps, whether in behavior or judgment, can have lasting consequences, potentially jeopardizing future prospects or attracting scandal. Young women learn early to balance personal desire with societal expectation, negotiating the tension between private feelings and public performance in a world where reputation is currency and social perception is critical. Even seemingly mundane activities, such as shopping, attending church, or visiting neighbors, are subject to scrutiny. How you carry your basket, the tone of your voice when greeting acquaintances, the appropriateness of your attire for the occasion, and your demeanor in interactions all reflect on your character. Public and private behavior are inseparable in the eyes of society. What is observed or reported in one context can have ramifications in another. Women develop a constant awareness of their surroundings, cultivating skills of observation, prediction, and adjustment to maintain respectability. Every interaction, no matter how small, becomes part of a broader performance of virtue and propriety. Education, though limited for women, reinforces these rules. Beyond literacy and numeracy, lessons focus on social conduct, moral instruction, and domestic skills. Music, drawing, embroidery, and conversational refinement are emphasized, teaching girls to navigate social spaces with elegance and poise. These lessons are not merely aesthetic, they are practical tools for survival in a society that values appearance, behavior, and conformity. Girls learn early that social success is tied less to talent or intellect than to the ability to manage perception, maintain relationships, and negotiate the expectations of a watchful community. Legal and economic structures further reinforce social restrictions. Married women have limited property rights, constrained by laws that prioritize male authority. Divorce is difficult and stigmatized, leaving many women legally bound regardless of personal satisfaction. Employment opportunities are scarce, often limited to domestic service, factory labor, or informal work, restricting financial independence. Even within these constraints, women wield influence indirectly through household management, guidance of children, social alliances, and charitable or community activities. Power in the Victorian era is often subtle, exercised through networks, knowledge, and skill rather than formal authority. The home itself is a stage for social performance. Household management, from cleaning to meal preparation to hosting visitors, is both practical and symbolic. Success reflects intelligence, discipline, and virtue, while failure may signal incompetence or moral laxity. Women who master domestic management are respected, admired, and able to exert influence over family, servants, and social interactions. The domestic sphere becomes a domain where intelligence, organization, and emotional acuity are critical, demonstrating that even within constraint, skill and strategy shape outcomes and social perception. Leisure and culture are also bound by expectation. Reading, music, drawing, and correspondence occupy free time, reinforcing refinement and propriety. Public entertainments, such as theater, opera, or social gatherings, are carefully chosen and attended with attention to social codes. Behavior in these spaces must balance enjoyment with decorum. Enthusiasm, laughter, or display of knowledge must be tempered to avoid appearing vulgar, frivolous, or immodest. Social engagement is a performance blending pleasure, education, and strategic observation, allowing women to navigate complex hierarchies while adhering to moral and social expectations. Religious and moral frameworks guide both public and private behavior. Church attendance, prayer, and adherence to moral codes shape decisions, interactions, and reputations. Virtue, chastity, and piety are not only personal ideals but public expectations, influencing marriage prospects, social acceptance, and community standing. Religion offers both guidance and justification, framing the limitations imposed by society as a reflection of divine order or moral correctness. Women internalize these lessons, shaping behavior and decision-making in alignment with both personal conscience and societal expectation. Social mobility and reputation are constant concerns. A woman's actions, alliances, and appearance are closely linked to opportunities for marriage, advancement, or influence. Gossip, observation, and judgment circulate rapidly, amplifying successes and missteps alike. Women develop keen awareness, strategic thinking, and social intelligence to navigate these dynamics. Every gesture, comment, and decision is part of a complex interplay between personal agency and societal expectation, where success is measured not only by private accomplishment, but by public perception and adherence to the invisible codes that govern behavior. Even minor errors can have significant consequences. A misjudged word, an inappropriate interaction, or an ill-timed gesture may invite scrutiny, diminish social standing, or limit future prospects. Women cultivate caution, diplomacy, and discretion, learning to balance honesty with prudence, desire with propriety, and personal inclination with social expectation. Observation, memory, and anticipation become critical tools, allowing women to navigate complex social environments while minimizing risk and maintaining respectability. Over time, this constant negotiation becomes second nature, shaping not only public behavior but personal identity, self-perception, and world view. Within these constraints, women find ways to exert influence and agency. Through the careful management of social interactions, domestic authority, charitable work, and personal relationships, they shape family, community, and social networks. Skills in observation, diplomacy, and negotiation allow subtle power to emerge within the boundaries imposed by society. Influence is often indirect, operating through networks, perception, and social leverage rather than formal authority, yet its effects can be profound, shaping decisions, outcomes, and legacies across households and communities. Friendship, mentorship, and alliance are key strategies for navigating these social rules. Women rely on each other for advice, support, and information, creating informal networks that provide safety, opportunity, and knowledge. Shared experience fosters empathy and resilience, while collective understanding of social norms allows groups of women to support one another in negotiating constraints, advancing subtly within society, and protecting personal and familial interests. Solidarity becomes a tool of survival and influence, allowing women to maintain agency even when formal power is denied. Public events, including dances, visits, charity functions, and social gatherings, serve as both opportunities and tests. Participation requires meticulous attention to attire, posture, conversation, and interaction, balancing engagement with restraint. Observation of others provides insight into hierarchy, potential alliances, and social strategies. Mastery of these subtleties demonstrates intelligence, skill, and awareness, while failure can damage reputation or limit future opportunities. Every public appearance is a negotiation, a performance that integrates social knowledge, moral expectation, and personal agency into a delicate and continuous exercise of influence. Even within restriction, women cultivate personal expression, creativity, and autonomy. Music, embroidery, literature, and social gatherings provide outlets for skill, taste, and intellect. Strategic choices in these arenas allow women to demonstrate refinement, competence, and subtle power without challenging social norms overtly. Expression is guided, controlled, and symbolic, yet it offers a space to exercise judgment, creativity, and influence within accepted boundaries. Mastery of these domains reinforces social standing, cultivates personal satisfaction, and allows a form of self-realization within societal limits. The interaction between constraint and opportunity defines the Victorian female experience. Social rules, expectations, and norms shape behavior, relationships, and perception, limiting overt autonomy while creating spaces for subtle influence. Knowledge of these rules, skill in observation, and mastery of etiquette allow women to navigate public and private life strategically. Power is exercised through discretion, influence, and subtle action, demonstrating that agency exists even within structures designed to limit it. Success in this world depends not on rebellion, but on understanding, negotiation, and careful management of appearance, interaction, and relationship. In essence, life as a Victorian woman is a constant balancing act. Social rules and restrictions permeate every action, gesture, and decision, yet within these boundaries lies a complex terrain of subtle influence, strategic action, and personal agency. Women learn to navigate appearances, reputation, relationships, and moral expectation with skill and intelligence, transforming constraint into opportunity. Every day is a careful negotiation, a performance, and an exercise in awareness, revealing the resilience, creativity, and strategic capacity of those who must operate under constant scrutiny and expectation. Mastery of this delicate social choreography allows women to shape both personal and communal outcomes, wield influence within limited spheres, and assert agency within a world that demands conformity, virtue, and discretion. Even within the strict confines of Victorian society, women discovered ways to exert influence and power, often quietly, subtly, and strategically. While their lives were circumscribed by rigid social expectations, legal limitations, and moral codes, these constraints did not extinguish intelligence, creativity, or ambition. Instead, they shaped the methods by which women exercised agency, turning the domestic sphere, social networks, and community engagement into platforms for meaningful action. Every decision, from the management of a household to participation in charitable endeavors, became an opportunity to exert authority, shape outcomes, and influence others. The paradox of Victorian life for women lies precisely in this. Apparent powerlessness masked the potential for profound, lasting impact, wielded with subtlety and precision. The home, often dismissed by historians as a place of confinement, was in reality a center of influence and authority. Women who mastered household management controlled not only daily routines, but also the education, behavior, and well-being of family members. Decisions about meals, health care, schedules, and moral guidance shaped the development of children and reinforced the social standing of husbands and extended family. In this way, the domestic sphere became a space where strategic thinking, planning, and leadership were exercised daily. Women monitored finances, allocated resources, and guided the household staff, all while navigating the expectations of propriety and decorum. The home was both a laboratory for social skill and a stage upon which women demonstrated competence, intelligence, and influence in ways that were socially sanctioned and respected. Child rearing, too, was a powerful avenue of influence. Mothers instilled values, discipline, and education into the next generation, shaping the moral, intellectual, and social character of their children. Decisions regarding schooling, manners, and religious instruction had consequences that extended far beyond the home, affecting the children's future roles in society, their opportunities, and their potential for success. By guiding and molding their children, women exercised influence that would ripple through families, communities, and eventually, society at large. The domestic focus on nurturing and education was not simply a personal or familial responsibility. It was a mechanism of societal continuity, transmitting norms, values, and behaviors in ways that reinforced both social order and incremental change. Outside the home, Charitable work provided another avenue for women to exert influence and pursue social change. Philanthropy was not only a moral obligation, but also an opportunity to shape the lives of others and to participate in broader societal projects. Women organized and managed schools, orphanages, hospitals, and relief programs, often taking the lead in funding, administration, and public awareness campaigns. Through these efforts, they affected the lives of the poor, the sick, and the marginalized, creating tangible improvements in health, education, and welfare. The act of charity also positioned women as moral authorities and public figures, allowing them to navigate and influence a society that formally limited their participation in governance or commerce. Their authority derived not from legal recognition but from the tangible impact of their work, the trust of communities, and the respect of peers. Many women used these channels to address systemic social problems, becoming early reformers who challenged conditions of labor, education, and public health. Awareness of the hardships faced by working-class families, children, and marginalized groups motivated women to act, often leveraging social networks, moral authority, and the influence of the household to advocate for change. Campaigns for improved sanitation, educational access, and labor protections were often initiated, supported, or publicized by women, even when they could not vote or hold formal office. Their work laid the groundwork for social reform movements that would later gain political recognition, demonstrating the profound impact of subtle, persistent effort within constrained societal roles. Education, both formal and informal, was another realm in which women exerted influence. While access to higher education was limited, women sought opportunities to educate themselves and others, teaching in schools, establishing literacy programs, and mentoring younger women. Knowledge became a tool of empowerment, allowing women to extend their influence beyond the home and into the community. By cultivating intellect and skill, they not only improved their own social mobility, but also enhanced the capabilities and prospects of those under their guidance. Literacy, cultural education, and practical instruction were ways for women to assert agency, challenge ignorance, and prepare future generations for expanded roles in society. Religion and moral instruction were also avenues for subtle power. Women were central to religious life, leading Sunday schools, organizing charitable activities, and providing moral guidance within their communities. Churches were not only spiritual centers but also hubs of social organization, and women's involvement allowed them to shape moral discourse, advocate for charitable initiatives, and influence community priorities. Their authority, while informal, was respected and effective, as it rested on the twin pillars of moral legitimacy and practical contribution. In an era when women were excluded from formal political power, moral and religious influence became a conduit for shaping values, behavior, and social norms. Social networks and salons were another arena for influence. Women cultivated friendships, alliances, and mentorships, creating webs of connection that extended both influence and knowledge. Through conversation, collaboration, and counsel, women guided opinions, facilitated introductions, and shaped decision-making within their social circles. Networking was an art. It allowed women to exchange ideas, coordinate efforts, and leverage collective influence in ways that were socially acceptable. These networks could amplify a single woman's voice, enabling her to participate indirectly in decision-making, social reform, and cultural innovation, even in a society that formally excluded women from public authority. Some Victorian women became writers, journalists, and intellectuals, finding public voices through literature, essays, and letters. Novels, essays, and serialized publications became vehicles to explore ideas, critique social norms, and reach broad audiences. Through storytelling, women challenged assumptions, exposed injustices, and inspired reflection or action among readers. While direct political engagement was often impossible, writing provided a socially acceptable channel for influence, allowing women to shape thought, culture, and debate. In this way, literature became both a mirror of society and a lever for subtle change, extending influence far beyond the domestic sphere. The burgeoning suffrage movement is a prime example of women exercising influence strategically. Even before women gained the right to vote, they organized, petitioned, and advocated for legal recognition and political equality. These efforts required diplomacy, strategy, and careful navigation of societal expectations, balancing activism with propriety to avoid social ostracism. By leveraging social standing, moral authority, and networks of supporters, women pressed for change incrementally, demonstrating that persistence, strategy, and subtle influence could eventually yield profound societal transformation. Family and household management remained central to the exercise of power. Beyond the immediate responsibilities of caring for children, managing staff, and maintaining the home, women used these positions to shape culture, social expectations, and moral standards. They trained household staff, guided social interactions, and maintained social rituals that reinforced values, etiquette, and social cohesion. Through these efforts, women exerted authority, modeled behavior, and ensured continuity of cultural and moral norms. Mastery of domestic life, far from being trivial, was a platform for leadership, mentorship, and subtle governance within both the family and community. Even leisure and social gatherings became instruments of influence. Hosting gatherings, salons, and teas allowed women to shape social agendas, cultivate alliances, and introduce ideas or initiatives subtly. Conversation, hospitality, and entertainment became tools for shaping opinion, demonstrating competence, and extending influence. The ability to navigate these interactions skillfully allowed women to participate in cultural life, guide discussion, and foster networks that would prove valuable in both personal and social reform efforts. Social skill was therefore not frivolous, but a form of soft power, shaping the intellectual, moral, and relational landscape of the community. Philanthropic campaigns often intersected with education and advocacy. Women used charitable work as a means of raising awareness, garnering support, and educating communities about health, hygiene, literacy, and morality. By combining practical action with advocacy, women created lasting impact, improving quality of life for marginalized populations while demonstrating competence and authority. Their efforts contributed to a gradual shift in social consciousness, proving that consistent, strategic action within constrained roles could have far-reaching consequences. The subtleties of influence were also apparent in political engagement. Even without formal voting rights, women lobbied male relatives, participated in petition drives, and engaged in community advocacy, leveraging personal relationships and social networks to exert pressure indirectly. Knowledge, diplomacy, and moral authority were essential, and success required patience, strategy, and resilience. By mastering these informal channels, women shaped legislation, public opinion, and social policy, demonstrating that influence need not be formal to be profound. Women also exercised influence through mentorship and guidance within their communities. Older or more experienced women taught younger women domestic skills, social norms, and moral instruction, ensuring the transmission of knowledge and competence across generations. This mentorship extended beyond the home, encompassing education, charity, and social engagement. The result was a networked form of authority, where guidance and expertise flowed through informal channels, shaping behavior, reinforcing norms, and cultivating subtle yet enduring power. Even in the face of societal limitations, women displayed resilience and ingenuity. They created institutions, led initiatives, and cultivated skills that allowed them to navigate constraints and exert agency. Their accomplishments were often understated or invisible to contemporary observers, yet they shaped the trajectory of families, communities, and even broader social structures. Influence, when exercised with awareness and strategy, could produce tangible outcomes, demonstrating that agency is not solely defined by formal authority, but by the capacity to act, persuade, and shape outcomes within existing systems. Women's influence often combined practical, moral, and intellectual dimensions. Managing households, guiding children, educating communities, and engaging in charity all required decision, making, strategy, and insight. By linking these activities to broader social objectives, whether moral instruction, public health, education, or reform, women leveraged the constraints of their society to generate meaningful impact. The exercise of influence was cumulative. Small, consistent acts of competence, guidance, and advocacy coalesced into substantial social and cultural transformation over time. Even personal creativity became a form of subtle power. Music, writing, needlework, and other artistic pursuits allowed women to demonstrate skill, taste, and intellect. These endeavors were socially sanctioned, yet offered avenues for expression, distinction, and reputation building. Recognition of talent, whether within a household, a social circle, or a broader community, enhanced social standing and extended influence. Creativity became a tool for both personal fulfillment and